the Ukrainian government, the Ukrainian military, and the Ukrainian Nazis that are being attacked by the Russians.
And then that's the who. Where are we here
We,
in Ukraine, and where? Yeah, where?
yeah, we are in Ukraine, and this particular discovery was in Mariupol, which was liberated by the Russians after 2 months of a standoff. Basically, they held it in siege, and Russia finally were able to get into Mariupol and liberate it, and
Okay,
they're
okay, okay,
finding all kinds of evidence.
okay, okay. You can tell the story in a second, but the where is Ukraine, southern Mariupol right now, and then uh, who, what, when, over years, I guess.
Yes,
Um,
over years, yes, definitely, and we're talking about organ harvesting,
Organ
har-
harvesting is the what, and
harvesting human organs.
okay, folks, we're going to talk. You can turn off right now or turn it up right now and start paying attention, whichever you want. The what is human organs, the harvesting, and the why. What's the why? Profit, torture, what?
Money, 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 money. It's extremely profitable.
Okay, so that's the who, what, when. We're in Ukraine. We're going to talk about organ harvesting, or Jeff is. Jeff has done this research, by the way. This is not, some other channels. They might talk about an article that happened to pop up on Bloomberg and then read it to you. Jeff has done original, deep work and been preparing for this for days. I have in my hand the article that he sent me, translated from the Russian, and its name is Ukraine is a Black Market in Transplantation. The word is transplantation, folks. We're talking Ukraine, black market. And Jeff, what is this all about?
As we know, the Russians have gone into eastern Ukraine, and James and I have already reported on bioweapon laboratories, WMD bioweapon laboratories, and extensive money laundering by the U.S. establishment. They're continuing to go into areas where the Ukrainian Nazis occupied Mariupol and elsewhere. And in this particular case, the Russians went into the Red Cross. We're talking about the Red Cross of Clara Barton, and the Civil War, and doing good, humane things to help the sick and the wounded in war. She's the one that founded the Red Cross. I watched the footage, the film footage that they were taking while they were in the Red Cross, the main Red Cross base in Mariupol, which formerly, until about a week or 10 days ago, was under the control of the Ukrainian government, which is basically the Ukrainian Nazis. It was absolutely shocking to see what.
Jeff,
Go ahead.
Jeff.
Go ahead.
So you watched footage of they in where? Say who they is.
These are the Russian soldiers who are going in to clear out areas in Mariupol that were once occupied by Ukrainian Nazis, and they went into the Red Cross base. The Red Cross base. Of course, I don't speak Russian, but I could sure see what they were looking at, and I got this translated article, and they were actually showing pictures of weapons. This is the Red Cross, and there were colorful weapons of images of weapons that were written for adults and for children, how to use weapons, etc. They were digging further, and then they found all the files that were in the Red Cross, and they found a treasure trove of information on many children, and they were their medical records were not about their sicknesses or their disabilities or whatever. The records were full of information about the health of their organs, which would strongly indicate that they were more concerned about harvesting the organs of these children than they were about taking care of them. This goes back, as James pointed out, in other programs we've done. The Ukrainian Nazis have been around since 1945. They've been doing the dirty work of the West for the last 75 years, and the information that's coming out by the Russians is absolutely frightening. They where do I start? They found all these records of children, and it goes back to when Ukraine passed laws in 2018, 2017 on organ harvesting, supposedly to control the rampant organ harvesting that was going on in Ukraine. But in actuality, the laws that were passed only made it easier for Ukrainian entities to harvest organs. In most countries, to take somebody's liver or a kidney or a heart or whatever, there's a massive amount of checks and balances and double controls, etc. The Ukrainians passed these two laws allowing for organ donations to be done online, just like voting online in the United States, and they allowed the get a load of this, orphanages, which is where children are, military units, prisons, hospitals, allowed them to, without anybody's permission above them, to harvest organs. And they, of course, they're supposed to get the permission from a loved, the next of kin. But if, under the circumstances, if they declare someone dead and tell the parents, "Oh, your child just died, I'm really sorry," then, and of course, you have to remember that the Ukrainian Nazis have been killing and wounding thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people since 2014. So there's a lot of bodies out there to extract organs from. So they not only allowing the online organ harvesting permission, and so it's just it has just like the money laundering, just like the child trafficking, just like the WMD bioweapons, the Ukraine has become a gigantic center for organ harvesting on a grand scale. One of their biggest partners is Israel. Israeli doctors have been working in Ukraine furiously for years to harvest organs. In fact, right after the Russians entered into Ukraine on February 24th, teams of Israeli doctors landed in Romania, went into Moldova, which is next to Western Ukraine, and then moved on into Ukraine to supposedly be doing charitable work. But in fact, an investigation showed that they were there to do organ harvesting. Again, this is extremely profitable. I have a wonderful quote. Thomas Dunning, who was a 19th century trade unionist, he said, quote, "Once there is sufficient profit, capital becomes bold. Provide 10% and capital is ready for any use. At 20%, it becomes lively. At 50%, it is positively ready to break its head. At 100%, it defies all laws. At 300%, there is no crime that it would not risk, even under the pain of gallows. And of course, that, the CIA with drugs, arms, human trafficking, money laundering. And we can add to this list, generating, fake death certificates for poor victims in Ukraine to harvest their organs. So this is beyond. I mean, I when I sent this to James.
Jeff, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Interrupt for a second?
Yeah,
Just
please.
I think to make the point, to the listener, organ harvesting. I mean, feel your belly above your belt. Then imagine the table. Then imagine that soft area, your belly, up into your ribs. You got to open that up. I've seen an autopsy. My dad was a funeral director, and you got to take those organs out. They're looking at the health of these children to get their organs. As part of this article, listen to this: gutted corpses were buried in mass graves. Did you hear that, folks? Gutted, like deer hunting in Wisconsin, hanging the deer up and then gutting it. In 7 to 10 minutes, they could cut out a couple of kidneys from a wounded or burned soldiers during the shelling of a city. They cut out the kidney and the spleen from a 12-year-old girl who had lost consciousness from a mine explosion and from her father. The mother had her legs torn off in the explosion, and she was sent to the medical center, quote, for a complete cutting into organs. Folks, we're talking about organ harvesting, extremely profitable to get that kidney, to get that spleen, to get that heart from a healthy Ukrainian and get it black market shipped. And Jeff has come across the video of the Russians discovering this and of the documentation. We're not talking about conspiracy, nothing. This is real life money, organ harvesting in the Ukraine. And Jeff, isn't there a U.S. connection here?
Well, the U.S. Connection is, of course, the fact that the United States has been using Ukraine since the fall of the Berlin Wall as basically a crime syndicate, and they have been using the Nazis since 1945, and they have been using Ukraine for everything from money laundering to child trafficking to baby farms to sell babies. They have, WMD, bio-arm laboratories, and again, we're talking about not just the mafia in Ukraine, but we're talking about the mafia in Israel. We're talking about Washington, D.C., Congress, the White House, who the Russians are exposing, and James and I have posted a number of documents to show all of this. And this is what, James read the title of this article. The subtitle was, "The West is rearing up because it is afraid of publicity." And this is what Russia is doing. This has been going on for a long time. I found articles on money laundering and human trafficking and baby farms going back to 2016 with Yandex, Yandex.com, Yandex.com, which is the Google of Russia. And of course, they don't have all the censorship, the big lie propaganda machine censorship for these kind of articles. So I recommend everybody out there, it doesn't cost a thing. use Yandex.com to do a lot of to do internet searches, and you'll find stuff that you cannot find on Google, Yahoo, or Edge, or Windows or whatever. So, and by the way, that quote that James talked about, the girl who was cut up, the 12-year-old girl, this group was led by a citizen of the Netherlands. This is testimony from a Ukrainian intelligence officer who was sent to the war zone in eastern Ukraine, where they were killing all of these Russophone Ukrainian citizens. And as part of a transplant team, can you believe this? You can see now why droves of Israeli surgeons are flooding into Ukraine to harvest all these organs out of the wounded in Ukraine. The group was led by a citizen of the Netherlands, Elizabeth Debru, Debru, who forced medics to remove organs without the consent of the wounded. They were recorded as missing. I mean, this is worse than anything that the Nazis ever did in World War II with Joseph Mengele. I mean, this is beyond anything that the Nazis did. This is beyond anything the Japanese did with Units 731 in China from 1935 to 1945. And so this is frightening stuff. And what's got the West scared to freaking death is that the Russians are going to expose this to the whole world, and they will make sure. The Russians are going to make sure that that all of this is sent to the 192 representatives of the United Nations, to embassies around the world, etc. And you won't see it on CNN, and you won't see it on BBC, and you won't see it in the New York Times. But a lot of people around the world are going to be learning about WMD bioweapons, and now we're looking at also money laundering. And now we're looking at organ harvesting in Ukraine, and to think that the United States has already given $53 billion to these people who are running this country, for arms, is just simply what can you say, James? It's just sad.
Well, I want to just say to the reader, if this is hitting you for the first time, go back and look at our recordings where we showed that the U.S. government was involved in the Ukraine since 1945 on with the neo-Nazis. There's a whole story about how we became involved. And then the listeners remember that in 2014, we flipped the democratically elected government in the Ukraine, and there has been war against the Ukrainian Russian population ever since then. The reader also knows that it was Senator Barack Obama, not President Barack Obama, but Senator Barack Obama, who went to the Ukraine in 2005. There's a photo of him looking at anthrax in a microscope in Ukraine, and he set up the original legislation for the biolabs. So Jeff and I have already done the biolabs. We've done the history of the neo-Nazis and the CIA. And now what we're talking about is a little girl loses her parents. She's an orphan for some reason, or she's in a hospital. She's in some facility where someone is a boss, is a superintendent, and they, with no permission above them, can sign paperwork, even do it online, to ship that little girl to have her organs cut out, to have her murdered and sliced up. And the profit is absolutely huge. So anyone who gets into a situation, a hospital situation, I mean, I'm sorry, your daughter died and we cremated the corpse, or they just disappeared in war or in transit. There's refugees moving around. There's opportunities for
Mhm.
anybody with organizational power to grab these kids. And folks, this is not Jeff and James talking. This is Jeff saying that the Russians walked in wide-eyed to Red Cross facilities and found the documentation. It's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. It's I don't know if James, if you ever saw that 1978 movie with Michael Douglas and Genevieve Bujold called Coma,
Yeah. Oh
directed
yeah.
by Michael Crichton, where they were harvesting organs. Well,
Yeah.
harvesting organs in hospitals. Well, this is life imitating art. I mean, this is just, but this is so. It's just it was actually depressing for me to actually read this article, but we've got to get the truth out, and people have got to understand who they're supporting in Ukraine, what they're doing, and that this is not something that's just started last week. This has been going on for many, 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 many years.
So the Russian article, I mean, Jeff is going to visualize this and put up links, and so you can do your own research. But at the end of this Russian article, they say you can believe or not believe in these revelations. By the way, there are many of them. It does not matter. We have the evidence that you can thoroughly check the facts about Ukraine, and they will be made public. The
Mm.
West is on its hind legs because it is afraid of this publicity. And if Russia publishes and makes available to the world community this data on biolaboratories, experiments on humans, organ harvesting, and finally on the participation of Western military and Western doctors in the conflict in Ukraine, it will be possible that this time Russia will not lose the information war. That's
Hmm.
very interesting. That's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
sophisticated. That's very sophisticated. It's an information war, and Russia's been watching the power of CNN and the Washington Post. And what they're saying is, this time we have the evidence. This is not. These
Hmm.
are not. These are not accusations, folks. This is hard evidence.
I just got 60 megabytes of PDF documents. They just keep rolling out. The Russians just keep rolling out evidence, and I mean, and these are like signed, stamped, dated documents from Ukrainian WMD bioweapon laboratories. The Russians are going to. They have already said they're going to have war crime trials, and I think we can not only, in addition to the a WMD bioweapon laboratories, the 31 that Ukraine, all run by the U.S. military. Not only are they going to have war crimes about those laboratories, it's pretty clear they're also going to have war crimes about organ harvesting in Ukraine. So it's that if anything else, it makes me feel good that finally somebody in this world is going to stand up to these psychopaths that run Western governments, and it looks like Russia's going to be the one to do it, and they are not going to let go. They are going to follow through on this.
And I'd like to say something to my listening friends who have said to me in email that Jeff and I are Putin apologists. That's the new McCarthy 2.0 phrase, that anybody who doesn't carry the narrative of CNN is a Putin apologist. But let me just say, we're following the facts. I mean, if this was about the Japanese having biolabs in the Ukraine, Jeff and I would be talking about it. Honest to God, if Putin had biolabs up there on the border of Canada and they were taking DNA samples from my Wisconsin compatriots to study how to kill Wisconsinites, Jeff and I would be on it, and we'd be all over Putin for doing this. We're not looking at the sides here, folks. We're looking at the facts. And there are biolabs, there are medical experiments, there's money washing, there's the sale of children, the marketing of sex slaves out of the Ukraine. And this is not a bunch of words and accusations, it's proof. And if Putin was doing it in Mexico against America, Jeff and I would be on the case. We're just looking at the facts here, and get off our backs about, who we politically support. We're talking facts that the world has got to know. And we should tip our hat to Jeff for digging this out.
Well, thank you. And I would also like to tell everybody that I posted this article on a web page that I created for a Russian woman named Irina Boyko, Boyko. She lives in Russia, but she lived in the United States. She was married to an American. She's now a widow, and she subtitles songs, movies, and cartoons that are Russian or Soviet with English subtitles. And she she's a member of the China Writers Group, and thanks to her, I found out about this article. It's just, she finds stuff in Russian, in the Russian press, and it's easy to translate with Yandex, and the Yandex does a great job translating. And so it's just like, everybody, if you go on my website, China Rising Radio Sinoland, just search for Boyko, Boyko. There's hundreds and hundreds of articles from Russia that she has sent us, and I post them faithfully every day. And you want to really find out what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine? That's a great place to start.
Well, thank you, and folks, let's get the truth out, and let's see how the chips fall, and let's get this world cleaned up. And I think that's everything for me, JB East. I want to say thank you to JB West, and good night.
Thank you, James. Good night.